Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to another reading of Quirk, Class Thaumiel. This will be Chapter 3. First, I'll give you some jargon explanations if you're not really a big part of the SCP community. The Foundation is a government organization made to contain SCPs and hide their existence from the public. An object class, specifically Object Class Thaumiel, refers to an entity that is used by the Foundation to contain other SCPs, or protect humanity. Disruption Class Amida is the highest possible disruption class, meaning that if Izuku wanted to, he could cause the maximum possible damage to society. Risk Class Critical means he has a large effect on other beings, namely SCPs. So without further ado, here's Chapter 3, Classified Document, Foundation Report on SCP-8502. SCP-8502. Item Number, SCP-8502. Object Class, Thaumiel. Disruption Class, Amida. Risk Class, Critical. Special Containment Procedures. Due to the dangers posed to the Foundation as a whole by applying traditional containment measures to contain SCP-8502, the subject is currently awaiting containment by Foundation personnel until a viable method can be found. Given the unconditional support and loyalty of all known anomalies SCP-8502 holds, the utilization of any anomalies to contain SCP-8502 is unauthorized. SCP-8502 may be as weak as a young human child, but any attempts made to neutralize using physical force may be met with support from a healing or resurrecting anomaly, such as SCP-006 or SCP-2295. The event of the extermination of SCP-8502 may result in an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario, evidenced by the agitation displayed in all monitored anomalies during instances of harm faced by SCP-8502. One possibly viable method of containment is instances of SCP-3396-01, publicly known as Quirked Individuals. SCP-8502 has not shown any significant influence over instances of SCP-3396-01, and the versatile array of instances may prove useful in containment efforts made towards SCP-8502. Due to the volatile nature of the situation, SCP-3369-01 personnel should not be mobilized without a direct threat posed by SCP-8502 to civilian lives. If a significant danger is posed, Foundation personnel have authority to authorize agents possessing SCP-3369-01 abilities relating to possession, mind control, or otherwise halting the functional capacity of SCP-8502 without causing it lasting physical harm. Description: SCP-8502 has the appearance of a young boy of Asian descent, notable features being green hair and eyes. The entity has been described as a cinnamon roll by personnel despite lacking any resemblance to pastry. Possible mimetic effects of SCP-8502 are to be investigated further. SCP-8502 is referred to by human entities as Izuku Midoriya. SCP-8502 appears human to all others, but has no existing records of either birth or existence prior to redacted. While the possibility of a time, reality, or document manipulation effect may be in play, the likelihood of mimetic influence is greater, and thus, SCP-8502 should be considered a non-human entity until further testing. SCP-8502 has the ability to unconsciously summon SCPs, even those in Foundation containment, to its current location. The subject has also displayed the ability to summon extra-dimensional and esoteric class entities. In moments of extreme emotional turmoil, SCP-8502 has shown the ability to summon entities of relevance to its immediate needs, as seen in the event of SCP-137's release into public. SCP-8502 broadcasts a transdimensional signal described as an old brass trigger or switch clicking 3 times prior to conscious summoning. All known anomalous entities with some form of sapience or sentience in containment have shown a reaction to this signal. No means known to Foundation researchers can block this signal at the present. Thaumiel classification has been granted to SCP-8502 due to its calming nature on even the most violent of entities. While in his presence and with his instruction, SCP-8502 could potentially convince even Archon-class entities to work towards the protection of humanity. Further experimentation is required. Footnotes. Extreme public scrutiny of the hero All Might dictates that SCP-137 cannot be currently retrieved without the possible leak of Foundation existence to the public. The SCPs in this chapter were SCP-8502, Izuku Midoriya, SCP-006, The Fountain of Youth, SCP-2295, a Patch.Work medical teddy bear, SCP-3396, it is a plant virus that mutates humans, SCP-3396-01, humans affected by the virus or descended from the affected, in other words, people with quirks, and SCP-137, the shapeshifter that turns into living toys. Sorry this chapter is a little bit boring and text-heavy. It's a SCP Foundation, kind of fandom normal thing, but I understand it's a lot, so there aren't really that many Foundation report chapters in this fic. It's mostly just story, mostly humor, mostly crack. Anyways, I'll get straight into Chapter 4, Why Say Izuku's Creepy? I don't get it. Here's the summary. 2 times, Izuku proves Katsuki wrong. Both times, he ends up screaming. There are trigger warnings in this chapter for graphic depictions of violence and body horror. When Izuku showed up to his preschool, he couldn't wait to tell Katsuki about how he had met All Might. You're lying, Kacchan yelled when Izuku had finished his rambling story. There's no way All Might was at your house. You're just a liar. Izuku felt tears prickle at his eyes. Friends don't call their friends liars. I wish I could show Kacchan that I really did meet All Might. I'll prove it to you. All Might and I are friends now. We had a whole conversation, Izuku retorted. Though he had no idea how he could prove anything, he was now dedicated to making Katsuki admit he was wrong. Huh? There's no way a creepy Deku like you made friends with a #1 hero, the increasingly angry boy shot back. Like he would ever choose you when he could hang out with me. A long white grub of some kind landed on Katsuki's head. Kacchan? There's a friend sitting on your head, Izuku told the other boy. You mean another one of your imaginary friends? I'm not buying it, Deku. They don't exist. Katsuki's tirade ended with the worm's attempt to make it inside of his ear canal. He screamed as he pulled at the slippery bug. Get it out! It's in my ear! Katsuki yelled, discussion of imaginary friends set aside. Not until you say sorry for calling me a liar, Izuku retorted, suddenly feeling stubborn. What the heckin' flip? Katsuki screamed as the grub made one final pull out of his grip, disappearing inside the ear canal. It's in my brain! All the yelling had attracted the kindergarten teacher. Now what in the world is going on, young man? All this screaming simply isn't appropriate. A worm went into Kacchan's ear, Izuku stated matter-of-factly, pointing at his panic-stricken friend. The teacher paled, probably already thinking about how she was so about to get fired for this. Let's get you inside then, shall we? Go see the nurse? She led the boy inside as he hollered about how his head hurt. Izuku felt bad for him, but strangely vindicated, all the same. When Katsuki returned to kindergarten sometime the next week, it turned out that tapeworm treatments worked for whatever was in his ear, even though it certainly wasn't your average parasite. Izuku asked his friend if he still believed that he made up the meeting with All Might. Yeah, Katsuki said. Come on, Kacchan, I'm telling the truth, really. No, you can't have met All Might that night, because I saw him, and All Might can't be in 2 places at once. Wait, Kacchan, you saw him too? Izuku asked, eyes widening. That's what I said. That night I remember being at your house for some reason. Anyways, then a weird lady turned into All Might and jumped out the window. But that's exactly what happened to me, Izuku said indignantly. You can't call me a liar for saying All Might was in my house when even you say he was there. Yeah, whatever. The point is that you weren't there. All Might only talked to me because I'm going to be the #1 hero. At this point, Izuku decided the battle wasn't worth it. Bakugo Katsuki would be an amazing hero after all. Okay, Kacchan, if you say so. When Izuku's quirk got diagnosed, Katsuki started putting some pieces together. It was on a field trip to the Musatafa Natural History Museum, Then he confronted Izuku about it all. You were the one who summoned the worm that got into my brain, weren't you? I know it gave me your memories while it was in there, he angrily whispered at Izuku while they were parading through the astronomy exhibit. So you do admit that I was the one who met All Might, Izuku exclaimed triumphantly. Quiet down, boys. We're in a museum, so keep the volume low, their teacher called, who miraculously kept her job after the brainworm fiasco. That's not the point, Deku, the angry boy hissed. I'm telling you that your quirk is creepy. You just summon worms and useless stuff. That's not true. I can summon big friends too, Izuku retorted, crossing his arms. Prove it, Katsuki dared, poking Izuku in the chest. I'm not allowed to summon my friends in public. The doctor said so, Izuku said, matter-of-factly. Katsuki harumphed and dragged the smaller boy into the closed doors for the planetarium. The room was closed. The lights dimmed until the space show set to begin in a few hours. There, now nobody can see your so-called big friends. I don't know, Izuku said weakly. Izuku's moral dilemma was cut off before he could make a choice. The door behind the two boys creaked open, and both of them turned in fear of being discovered in an off-limits area. But whoever was approaching behind them wasn't their teacher. You really messed up by coming in here all alone, the man said in a gravelly tone. He closed the door to the dark room behind himself. He wore a black, nondescript hoodie and sunglasses, despite the dimness of the planetarium. Everything about the man screamed stranger danger. While Katsuki was understandably wary of the man and said nothing, Izuku, and his aforementioned lack of fear, was unhindered. I'm so sorry, mister. Izuku was cut off by the man's lunge for the boy, holding his large hand over Izuku's mouth as a green gas poured off of it. Hey, let go of him! Katsuki yelled, hands sparking as he rushed the man and threw feeble punches at his arm. That hurts, brat! The man yelled and shoved Katsuki roughly to the ground. Strong as the boy was, there was nothing he could do to stop someone 5 times his size. Izuku's eyes were slipping closed as the sleeping gas worked its way through his system. Don't hurt Kachan, was all he could manage to mumble through the man's hand in the thick gas. With that, Izuku fell unconscious. Target secured, the man said to himself. I guess it's time to sweep away the evidence now. Glad there's no security footage in this room, he said as he slid a handgun from under his hoodie with his free hand. He pointed the weapon directly at Katsuki on the floor, who froze at the sight of it. A bullet never left the gun's chambers. Instead, Katsuki Bakugo was forced to watch a scene that would make a horror movie enthusiast nauseous. For behind the man in black, another figure stepped from the shadows. When the man followed the boy's eyes to over his shoulder, he paled immediately, apparently recognizing the figure. It stood over 7 feet tall, pitch black and jagged all over. The creature moved, fast as a shot, gripping the man's arms with long limbs and twisting them until he had dropped both Izuku and the weapon. No, was the last sound the man made as the entity proceeded to pull and twist the man's neck, then arms and legs, stretching him into something deformed. His bones popped and groaned as new ligaments grew in, longer and crooked. Katsuki watched in abject horror, unable to move an inch, as the long, dark figure hunched over the unmoving corpse sprawled out next to Izuku, as every conceivable joint he had was stretched beyond recognition. The sound was the worst part. Every snap, every pop, jolted Katsuki's senses back into the present, back into the scene before him. After what felt like centuries of this, Izuku stirred to waking on the floor. Kachan? What happened? He said groggily, rubbing his eyes. In the span of time it took for Katsuki to shift his attention to Izuku, the long, dark entity had disappeared. A stretched-out corpse was all that remained. Izuku turned to the remnants of the man on the floor, and that was what scared Katsuki most of all. Izuku didn't flinch. He wasn't scared or even slightly upset at the sight of a dead man. He looked at it with the same level of emotion one might show to a discarded tin can on the street. Nothing. Izuku turned back to Katsuki. For a second, there was nothing human behind those eyes, only darkness. Then, like a switch had flipped, his sunshine smile was back, hand outstretched to his friend still on the floor. Here, Kachan, let me help you up, Katsuki slapped Izuku's hand away. "Get away from me, Izuku!" He scrambled up to his feet and promptly pushed past Izuku and out of the door, screaming his head off all the way. Izuku stood alone in the room, staring at his hand as tears began to prick his eyes. While the smell of copper slowly permeated the air, he cried because his best friend had pushed him away once again. The SCPs in this chapter were SCP-1280, the Memory Transferring Parasite, and SCP-783 again, the Crooked Man. I hope you like this story. I'll see y'all soon for chapters 5 and 6. Thank you all so much for listening. Patch out.